Welcome to the freaking after party. Today's implanted memory of a relaxing interplanetary vacation is reserved exclusively for our Patreon supporters, which is you, and we thank you dearly. Okay, three things. One, for that sweet, sweet food content, I have roped my neighbor, who you all know is like the fucking best cook ever, and we have a smoker and is going to make some dope food for us. But I promised to make ice cream.
Wow.
So I would like everybody's in our patrons recommendations of what type of sort of summery, flavorful ice cream I should try. I have some ideas. Roasted balsamic strawberry ricotta ice cream, hibiscus and lime ice cream, pineapple coconut ice cream, Earl Grey ice cream. I am also open to many other suggestions. I feel like the food is going to be Mexican-ish. There's some pork shoulder and some mole happening. Oh, I wonder if I could make like a horchata ice cream.
Yeah, like a horchata, or I was going to suggest something like a hibiscus-y.
Yeah,
like
hibiscus and lime. I feel like also the dinner will be so heavy that like a nice little light something after. Anyways, I'll keep you all posted on the progress of this.
Trader Joe's has a new horchata ice cream, horchata inspired ice cream that is very good. But you could also do just like a sweet cream tres leches type of situation.
Yeah.
Earl Grey doesn't feel very summery to me.
No, it doesn't, does it?
Yeah. I would still eat
a
million of it. But
the ice cream that I've been wanting to make is like a Mexican hot chocolate, which is just like a deep spicy, but I was like, that's not a fucking summer ice cream.
Yeah.
So no. Okay. I will. These are great. The tres leches is a great idea too. All right. Let's see what happens. Get back on my ice cream making kick. I love making ice cream. It is surprisingly easy to do. And then everyone's like, wow. Like last year I made this like ginger ice cream that was to die for. And it was extremely easy, but nobody needs to know that.
No.
Okay. There is a trope that they used in the movie we just watched, which is called Total Recall. And it is a trope that I find so fucking annoying. It's the bad guy is so bad that he hits women. And that's how you know how bad he is. So like what you usually have when this trope happens is that the protagonist is pretty kind of sexist and shitty, but the bad guy is like really misogynist. And so you know that his sexism is like means that he's the villain, and this other guy's sexism is just like normal or whatever. Like that's just whatever. So at the very end, he I forget what he does. He says something degrading or hits her or whatever. And I just was like, ugh, rolled my eyes at bad guy trope.
Although Arnold has two like kind of foils to this. One is, you know, he's a good boy because when he meets the little psychic girl, he like caresses her cheek instead of being like, you're a mutant. Like he's like, oh, sweetie. But then probably my favorite line in the movie is when he shoots Sharon Stone and says, consider that a divorce. She's dead. You don't need to quit, but I love it. Keep it coming, Arnold.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I just because I've had this tab open, so I had clicked over to the Arnold Schwarzenegger like Wikipedia, and you know when it has like there are many articles about Arnold Schwarzenegger, like which of the ones do you want to click on? So they have it broken out, and I just love these categories: film career, which has accolades, Terminator, and then parentheses, Hasta la Vista Baby has its own article. I'll Be Back has its own article. Then there's a whole section about bodybuilding, you know, various Mr. Olympus, Planet Hollywood. Okay. Political career, which has 3 articles that are interesting to me: opinion polling, LGBT rights, and girly men. And it's just like, what a flowchart of ways.
A Venn diagram, really.
Yeah. Like just so like, yes. Film career, sure. Bodybuilding, okay. But where does girly men land? Political career. Of course it does. I mean, that's when he
used the slogan in the recall campaign against Gray Davis, right? And I remember
that was the first election I ever voted in.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I remember I was living in Berkeley, California at the time. I was in grad school. And you know, of course I had no real sense of just how dire everything was in the rest of the state and how badly this was going to go because of the environment there at Berkeley. But at least the one thing I can say is that the very least my diploma still has Gray Davis's signature on it. And then I had to think about everyone else's and how, you know, for a lot of my other friends who got their PhDs after me, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger's signature is on this.
That's hilarious. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly sure like Total Recall, the phrase was like used fairly heavily in the discussion around this. What a time.
I mean, are we going to get into the Chris Pratt of it at all? Given as you know, he is married to his daughter, Schwarzenegger's daughter. He also
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, what's the Chris Pratt of it all? Like being homophobic? Okay.
No,
wow.
So the political and he obviously has political aspirations himself.
Chris Pratt does?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been living under a rock. As you tell me, just give it to me. Let's just do this.
I mean, he's talked about it. I mean, it's obvious that he like would run as a conservative politician of some kind. And you know, the other thing is that fascinated
who
me
wants
about
that.
I mean,
I think people want it.
Sadly, that there are people who are going to want it, but Schwarzenegger's political career was, you know, sort of amped up by him marrying a Kennedy, right? And it was sort of like, I just remember being scandalized, especially like in the 80s. And I was like, he's married to a Kennedy. How can he be, you know, this gross, like, you know, endorser of the first Bush? How is it that he's participating in this recall campaign, yada yada yada, you know? So I mean, so it's happening all over again. It's interesting how, you know, Chris Pratt marrying his daughter opens up the possibility that there's some other, you know, muscle bound movie star who ends up in
I have a question. What is the ratio of celebrities who run for office that are conservative versus liberal? Because I feel like the ones that get into office at the like the higher levels that I'm thinking of are all conservative or Republican.
Well,
like, does that mean that they're
Jesse the Body Ventura, who was an independent governor of Minnesota, and Al Franken, who was also in Minnesota, but you know,
but that's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ronald Reagan, you know?
Right. I mean, yeah, the big
governor.
Clint Eastwood. Wasn't he mayor?
Conservative.
He was mayor. Yeah.
Like, is it just that liberal actors aren't deluded enough to do this? Or is it that like the base isn't getting like sucked into the glamour of it? I mean, I don't believe that.
I think there's a weird sweet spot of like where fame and like libertarianism can overlap, like where you are a wealthy person. So like, you know, The Rock, I've been watching the show Young Rock, created by Nahnatchka Khan, and have either of you watched it?
I haven't seen it yet. No, but
it uses this framing device of Dwayne Johnson is on his presidential campaign tour, I don't know, 15, 20 years from now, and is being interviewed about his life by Randall Park. So it's going back and telling stories from The Rock's youth, and that's like the show, but he's spoken pretty openly about like that he would have political aspirations. And I feel like there is, I mean, this is how I kind of remember it being about Arnold too, which is like, well, I'm a Republican, but I'm liberal in these ways, and I'm like Californian, so I'm not that other kind of Republican that you're afraid of. Like, I do think there's this kind of niche that I think people feel comfortable with.
And it's and like they recognize the name, they recognize the person, they have warm feelings about the person from all the time they've spent with them.
Yeah.
I mean, Cynthia Nixon is like the one exception that I can think of in recent memory. She didn't win though.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so, but you know, so all the way back to, you know, Sonny Bono, also running for mayor, a lot of like kind of surprisingly conservative guys. One of the people who I remember who ran for office, and this was the first celebrity that I'd heard of. And he's not even that big a star, but he played Gopher on The Love Boat, Fred Grandy,
Okay.
who ran for Congress, and he became a congressman in Iowa. And I remember that was like kind of a big deal. It was like in the 80s, but it's not very common for non-Republican celebs. I mean, Jesse Ventura again was governor, and he was an independent. I think that people like the fantasy of, their celebrities being in some way kind of apolitical, right? As you were saying, a bit of a, freedom for all, like nobody, like not too ideological. And in a way, that's kind of where Schwarzenegger fell, is that he, and he still does present himself as a really kind of non-ideological, but economic conservative type, right? Who has, a kind of California Republican of that mold. So I think that, he did hit that sweet spot, as you were saying, Kat.
Well, and Chris Pratt's had to sort of backpedal a little bit from his like affiliation with the Hillsong Church. And I mean, I remember when like people were dragging Chris Pratt for being Chris Pratt, and then all of the other Marvel people had to like tweet publicly like, hey, Chris is a cool dude, everyone chill out. And it was like, Mark Ruffalo, what are you doing? Like, really? Like, you're doing this? And it's like, what are they going to take the Hulk away from you? Like, who cares? You're not getting a standalone Hulk movie, so like move on. .org. But then now Chris Pratt's like, I'm not like that religious, and it's like, okay, sure,
yeah,
like
dude.
your Instagram's still there. Like we know what your deal is, but I think
somebody's
he's also
kept the screen caps,
yeah. And it's like there's I wouldn't be surprised, like John Krasinski there's a lot of this, right? Like there's a whole like cadre of these like guys who aren't in the like only right wingers like them type of celeb. Like everybody might go to see A Quiet Place, but not everybody might go see 13 Hours, the Benghazi movie that John Krasinski did. So like where they're kind of straddling like both sides of the audience to maybe like temperature check and see what happens. And I don't know. I think that's a wise business decision, whether or not it's like ideologically something you should be doing when you can make other choices because you have all that sweet office money. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Well, they'll be fine. I'm not worried about it.
Maybe less celebrities running for office is maybe, I don't know, maybe less office, maybe less terrible old dudes. I don't know.
More piano bars,
less office. And I realized as I was like, I was about to go down this like no government line, and I was like, that's not what I actually believe in. That sounds awful. The current state of things is bad, and they should be different.
I do want to point out somebody's interesting post Total Recall career, which let me remind myself of her name because I don't have it in my brain. Okay. Lycia Naff is the woman who played the three-breasted gal.
It always comes back to her.
It always comes back to her. So she's done various other acting roles. She had a couple of episodes on The Next Generation as an ensign, and then she has recently voiced that same character in Lower Decks, which I think is pretty funny. But she went on to become a journalist and did work in the Bill Cosby sexual assault case reporting. And
Great.
I just thought, I was like, I always think it's cool when like somebody that you're like, oh yeah, I remember that person, but like she's gone on to do something very productive and meaningful with her career.
Great. Good for her.
Yeah,
what as we're on this topic, before we wrap up, I would just like to point out Predator and all of the were they all like candidates or governors of some sort, like all four of those dudes all like ran for office in some capacity. So the 80s,
whoever wins, we lose.
Exactly. All right, Karen, thanks so much for joining us and sticking with us during the bonus. Thanks everyone for listening. We will see you next week.
Can't wait to find out what ice cream you made. Thank you.
I know, me neither. Bye.
Bye.